Hi! Welcome to the Little Woolly Things podcast. This is episode number 1. I am upstairs in my barn, and as you can see behind me, the barn is unfinished. So I'm hoping that by filming my podcast up here, that gives us a little motivation to make some progress so that I can actually show you what we're doing up here. This is the upstairs room of the barn, and eventually this will be our spare bedroom, guest room space, and also my workspace. So I'm hoping to someday have this finished so that I can move my yarn up here, I can set up my knitting machine, and start really, producing some great stuff up here. It's not very soundproof though, so I gave my dogs explicit instructions not to bark while I'm recording this. We'll see how that goes. So my name is Wendelica Klein, and I know you don't know me because this is my first episode. I am the mother of 9 children. 4 of them now. 4 of my children are married, and I have 1 grandbaby. So my apologies to Ben and Brianna for almost forgetting you, but I didn't actually. Anyway, yeah, so my oldest daughter is 26. She'll be 27 in just a couple months. And my youngest son is 6 years old. We have quite a spread, and that keeps life interesting. So this podcast is going to be mostly about knitting and crocheting, and whatever other crafty things I'm doing, because I have a really hard time pinning myself down to just one thing. Recently, I have begun submitting knitting designs to Knit Picks. I just recently submitted my first crochet design to them. I've been crocheting and knitting pretty much all my life, so I've done a lot of my own just kind of winging it stuff, and I have been trying for a really long time to break into the knit design world. I guess that's what you call it. So I applied to Knit Picks to join their independent designer program partnership, and they liked my designs, and so they've been publishing some of my patterns, and that just makes me feel really great. Knit Picks doesn't they don't accept every pattern that I send them. So those patterns I self-publish, and they go into my Etsy shop or my Ravelry store. So I will put links to those down below in the description. And gosh, I hope you guys are interested in seeing what I'm doing and maybe some of the creative process that goes on. And if so, please hit the subscribe button down below. I would love to have some people following my podcast. It sounds like so much fun to get to know lots of other knitters. I have had, through my blog, contact with people all over the world. I've been talking with a knitter in France about having some of my patterns translated into French, which is a super cool thing. I would really love to see some more people taking advantage of my ideas and kind of making them their own, and I would love to see pictures of projects as they are being put together, as they're finished. I really love to see people being creative. So let's get into the actual podcast episode now. I have some notes to myself because I do not trust my memory to remember what I wanted to talk about. As an example of patterns that Knit Picks did not approve or choose to publish for me, I have this lovely cowl, and I call this the cornflower cowl because it has this beautiful embroidered cascade of cornflowers across the front, and it's done with some slip stitch patterning. This is done in Knit Picks Kotlin in 3 different shades, and then the embroidery is, I think this is in the gloss yarn, gloss fingering. Anyway, this is one of the patterns you can find in my Ravelry store. I think this is also in my Etsy shop, which is Little Woolly Things on Etsy. Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about is another one of my hobbies. So this is one of the reasons why this is not only knitting and crochet. I'm also an amateur coffee roaster. So I'm going to show off this week's favorite coffee bean, which is from Mexico. These beans were actually grown in the state of Oaxaca. And these are what they look like green and unroasted. They're, whoops, I'm spilling them on the floor. They are kind of dense, hard. They smell kind of like green beans, which makes sense. I mean, they're a bean, right? A seed, actually. This is the seed from what is called a coffee cherry. And in the processing, they dry that and remove the pulp from around the beans, and then dry out the beans and ship them to whoever buys them. Anyway, these are my Mexican Oaxaca beans roasted. See if I can angle that toward the sunlight so you can see them. As you roast them, they actually lose water weight, so they get much more lightweight and fluffy. And they also expand, so after they're roasted, they take up more space, even though they weigh less than they did when they were green. And they smell, oh my gosh, so good. So, so, so good. And they make the best cold brew coffee. Really, really yummy. So that is one of my favorite beans for cold brew coffee. And I'm thinking maybe one of these days I might do a giveaway and give away a small sample bag of some roasted coffee beans. Maybe. We'll see. Stay tuned for the next podcast. Just in case I decide to give away some coffee beans. The only reason I'm not doing that on this episode is that I really don't have my packaging figured out. I guess if you didn't mind a Ziploc bag, you know, I could send a little Ziploc baggie with some roasted coffee beans. I'll think about that. Okay, so, oh, I wanted to do a section on new discoveries. And this is going to be maybe a new technique that I have discovered, or a cool lace pattern. Maybe it will be a new podcaster, or, oh, I don't know, anything new, something that's getting me really excited about knitting or crocheting. So this week's discovery is actually the KirbyWirby Afterthought heel. I heard about this from Christy Layell, and her podcast is called Relatively Crafty. It's really kind of cool to see all of the amazing things that Christy is knitting. She does lots of socks, and I figure if anyone knows their way around sock heels, it's Christy. So she has worked up a lot of socks with the KirbyWirby heel. I think, I know I've heard some other podcasters talking about this heel design too. And it's an afterthought heel where you actually knit your sock as a tube. I wish that I had one on the needles right now to show you, but I don't. I just really, really recently discovered it, and I've got a bunch of works in progress going right now, so I'm not ready to cast that on yet. But probably soon I'll be working on a sock with that kind of heel. So you basically knit a tube, and then you pick up stitches while it's, you know, where you want your heel to be, with a row in between. You just stick your needle through there, and then you actually cut. You cut your knitting and unravel it, and then start working from those stitches that you picked up. And just make yourself a heel. And it's just like working a toe. So you don't have a bunch of gaps right at the corners where a lot of times your heel will have a great big gappy hole and you have to do all kinds of crazy things to get it to cinch up shut. So it looks really cool. I have done afterthought heels before, but I always bound off the stitches and then picked up stitches again and worked out, so I didn't have to worry about cutting my heel, which is a really cool concept. And actually it's great if you are anticipating having to replace heels as they wear out, because then you can just cut that heel section and rip out all of those stitches and nothing is going to unravel on you. But it does create a ridge of really inelastic and kind of hard stitches where the stitches have been bound off, and that might not be the most comfortable thing to walk on. It doesn't bother me, but I know some other people don't really like it. So the thought of working from live stitches to then knit out your Afterthought heel just sounds like it'd be a lot more comfortable. And I think if you are careful to finish in those ends as you unravel that one row, you finish them in very well, very securely, I don't think it's going to be a problem as far as coming apart. Replacing the heel wouldn't be as simple because you have to make sure you pick up your stitches in the same place. But if you were to do a contrasting color, it'd be really, really easy to see where your stitches are. So those are my thoughts on that. So let's move on to whips. The first whip I want to show you is actually a new design that I'm working on. And this one has some unique challenges in it. This is going to be a shawl. And it's got some wonderful lace sections in it. It's all wedges and asymmetrical work, which is kind of a thing in my designs. I really, really love to do asymmetry. I love to do short rows. I love to do lace. And I really get a kick out of mixing different yarn weights together. So this is the main body of the shawl is Knit Picks Stroll, and this is their Stroll Tonal in the color is called Train Station. Now the short accent stripes in here are a very heavy, chunky yarn. This is City Tweed, and it's their Aran weight, so it's a very heavy yarn, and it's in Tahitian Pearl, which is a really nice gray tone, which kind of picks up the gray in the Train Station also. I thought it was just a really nice accent. So the challenge with this one as far as designing is that the lace wedges are actually wedges. So the beginning and the end of each row start and end in a different place in the lace pattern. So I'm trying to figure out how to chart that in a way that makes sense. It's a really cool lace, and it does have shaping out on the edges of the lace. Whoops! Here, it's hard to show you because I haven't blocked it out. But that's what I'm working on. And I'm trying to figure out how to do an edging for this too. I haven't decided what kind of edging it needs. So yeah, this one is an in progress. It's kind of been set aside while I think about things, especially the edging and charting out the lace sections. I have some ideas. They're coming along. Eventually, though, this will be available someday. I'm just still working on it. Some designs just fly off the needles. They're fabulous. They're so easy. And then others take a lot of thought. If you have seen any of my patterns, one of my most recent ones is called the Gypsy Caravan Shawl, and I actually spent about a year figuring out how to make that one just right. Yeah, that one was a long, arduous process. And I kept setting it aside and then pulling it out and then setting it aside and then ripping it out and starting all over again. And yeah, it just took a lot of thought. And I think it's actually one of my best designs. I really am in love with that one. Even though the pattern has been available for, oh my goodness, how long has it been out? For a very long time. Well, for me. I mean, I haven't been designing that long. But it's been out for like, oh gosh, I don't even know. 6 or 8 months? Maybe more? I'll have to check that. And maybe I'll put that in the show notes somewhere. Anyway, yeah, so designing, some are just quick and easy, and some designs take a long, long time. That's why patterns are really worth, you know, the $5 or $6 that you spend on them, because you never know, it might have taken a year to put the design together. Okay, my next whip is actually for my grandbaby, and I am making this one with Knit Picks Felici yarn, and this is in a colorway that I believe has been discontinued, and it's called Cheer. This is a cute self-striping, it's like a pale pink, kind of mottled, or heathered, I guess, look, and then there's a solid red that it stripes with. So this is all one ball of yarn that stripes all by itself, and it's going to be the cutest little baby cardigan, I think. I have the back and the fronts all worked in one piece. That's finished, and I am now working on a cute little baby sleeve. I mean, look at this, it's so cute. Can you imagine this little itty bitty sleeve? So sweet. So the only thing that concerns me with using this self-striping yarn for this particular design is that I get these skinny little stripes where I'm working the full width of the cardigan, and then I get like some medium stripes here on the back, and then I get some really thick stripes across the front because, you know, these rows are shorter, so you get more rows out of the same piece of the, or color of the yarn at that place. And then, of course, the sleeves are going to be another width of stripes again. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that to make it look cohesive. Of course, the colors are all going to be the same, but the stripes are going to be just crazy everywhere. So I might do some embroidery over it, or something. I want to do something to make it kind of pop and be a little bit unique. So this pattern actually came out of a book that I've had in my pattern library for a really long time. It's called Baby Knits by Debbie Bliss, and there's some really wonderful patterns in this book. Let's see, the copyright is 1988, so yeah, I've had this one for a while. But there are some really great designs, and beautiful photography and the cutest little babies, you know. So if you are looking for some great baby patterns, this is a great book. It's worth finding if you can find it. Let's see. Oh, finished objects. Finished objects. I am wearing one of my most exciting projects that I designed for a knit along, and this is for a group called the Slow Ass Knitters on Ravelry, and it's spelled $. So if you are interested in joining the Slow Ass Knitters Club, look them up on Ravelry. We're having all kinds of fun chattering and showing pictures of our projects, trying to decide yarns to use for specific patterns. There's a bundle of patterns on the group that's like, I don't know, 200 or something patterns of summer tops. And so we're doing a knit along, and I'm not moderating this, I'm just like a participant, you know. This is the first knit along I have ever done, and I heard about it on, oh gosh, one of the podcasters. It's actually being hosted by 7 different podcasters, and so they're all putting prizes in toward the chatter thread and the finished object threads, and it's just all kinds of fun getting to know people. I'm trying to remember. I follow all of their podcasts, so I can't remember which one I was watching where I heard about this the first time. It might have been Sunshine and Bubblegum. Probably. I think that was probably the one where I heard about it first. So anyway, I thought, well, I've been planning on making this summer top design up anyway, and they're doing this knit along. where everyone's making summer tops. So why don't I just put my design as I work it into the knit along? And I wasn't even sure if I would be able to get it finished before the knit along ended. It started May 1st and it's ending the last day of July, I believe. And ta-da, I have it done. In fact, I've had it done for a little while. Being part of the knit along actually kind of spurred me on to show off my progress and to keep working on it and to figure out the problems as they came up and just make it work. And so it was really good motivation for me to finish this design. So I will stand up and show you my pattern. I'll have to move my chair out of the way. You can't see my head anymore, but this is the top, the front. It has these really cool kind of knitted sideways sleeves. And then the back is the part that I love the most. It has this really neat lace design. I don't know if you can see. It actually is worked in columns and it kind of comes down to a wedge shape. I have the same pattern on the sleeve to pull it all together. I have had some interesting problems that I had to figure out how to deal with in this, and mostly they involve the edging on the sleeves. And I will insert some photos here of before and after. I tried a few different things for my sleeve edging. I just wanted this tiny little strip of the accent color on the edges of the sleeves, and the sleeves were curling really badly, and gosh, it was very distressing because I didn't want the sleeves to curl. I want them to be fluttery and loose and breezy and comfortable, and it just wasn't happening. So I ended up, because I just wanted to wear this, you know, I spent so much time on it, and I finally got it done, and I'm so happy with it, and I just wanted to wear it. So this one, I kind of MacGyvered to make it lay flat, and I'll show a picture of what I did to flatten it out, because I don't think you'll be able to see it close enough here in the video. So anyway, I don't believe that's the recommended method of dealing with curling edges. I just ran an extra thread through the back loops of the stitches and gave it enough tension that it wasn't able to curl forward. And that has to do with the nature of stockinette. It's actually thicker on the back side than it is on the front side of the stitch, and so the thicker back side takes more room than the tighter front side, and it makes it curl over. So you have to counteract that if you don't want your edges to curl. You have to do a hem or do some other thing to balance it out. And I didn't want a big thick hem on the sleeve because I want it to be loose and fluttery. So even though I MacGyvered this particular one, I did continue swatching and experimenting with some edgings, and I finally came up with this. And even though the colors are different, this is the same yarn that I used for this top. The contrast color is Knit Pigs. It is, let me think. I think this is Stroll. Oh yes, Stroll hand paint, and it's called Koi Pond. But the beige part, the body of the sweater, is knitted in loops and threads, wool-like, which is 100% acrylic, and it has very different qualities from the wool here in the top part of the top. So I swatched it with the same Stroll hand paint here for the accent color, and the green is wool-like again. It's just a different color. And I really didn't think I was going to like the green with the Koi Pond, but I kind of love the way those colors are blending in there. So I might have to think about working with these colors together. I just really like that. So I think when I write up the pattern for this summer top, I am going to do the sleeve edging like this with these little pops of color. And what I did is I did, let's see. Oh yes, it's a knit 3 with the koi pond, and then purl 2 with the wool-like in between the pops of color. So you actually get knit stitches and purl stitches in the same rows, and it flattens everything out. So that's probably the way I'm going to write the pattern out. And, oh, as part of the knit along, I actually, I won a prize in the chatter thread, which was kind of cool. I got to pick any pattern that I wanted off of Ravelry. And so I picked a pattern. I was so excited. And, but it was in a book published by Interweave. And I was thinking, how is this going to work? How are they going to buy one pattern out of the book and then send it to me? But, you know, I didn't know if it was going to work or not. So then the podcaster who was gifting me the pattern messaged me back, and she said, oh, I can't do that one because it's part of a book and it's not an individual pattern. So I picked a different one. But I was so in love with that first pattern that I had picked out that I got online and I bought the book. It is called Warm Days, Cool Knits, and this book is by Corrina Ferguson. Wow, this book has some really cool stuff in it. If you want to do some nice lightweight summer knitting, or you know somebody who lives in a warm climate, my oldest daughter lives in Louisiana, so I'm not going to make her a bunch of, you know, cowls and beanies and chunky Aran sweaters, you know, but I might maybe make her something like that, or, you know, something lightweight that she could wear in the wintertime, maybe kind of like that. Gosh, there are so many things in this book that I would love to make. So if you are interested in doing some warm weather knits, good resource. This is a good one right here. So I thought I would share that with you and, you know, just let you know it's out there because it's pretty cool. And I think that's actually all I had to share with you on my very first episode of my podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm having fun, and I'm looking forward to having more fun and getting to know more people. So please feel free to subscribe to my podcast. You can look me up as Little Woolly Things. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest. My Etsy shop is called Little Woolly Things. And I'm on Instagram a lot, and I am Wendelica Klein on Instagram. So I will put a link to that down below. And you can also find some of my patterns at KnitPicks. So if you go to knitpicks.com and you click on the Independent Designers program in the little pattern section, you can search for Wendelica Klein, and you'll find all of my patterns there that they have chosen to publish. So I look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye!